Well, today I want to recap what we said till now, but briefly, because I really would like to expose a little bit more and show a little bit, trigger our attention to the interesting topic of can we see actually our life structures in visionary forms under specific altered states of mind, which is really mind-puzzling theories of some researchers and is actually growing, but it's something that apparently is known into the shamanic world. So we had 7 sessions, starting from the text and then growing and growing, elaborating a little bit further, and having the text somewhere in behind. I didn't want to so much to focus on the text analysis in some specific details. This is also something that we can do another time, but I just wanted to present the idea how to potentially read what is there, what is the topic in Judaism, and actually how much similar and how much convergent it is with many other symbols from many other cultures, and also with our biology and our anthropology and theology, and the theory of prophecy as theory of passing information and communication. So the first one, we were talking so many things about Rav Gikatilla, actually that he was a student of Rav Abulafia. So the whole idea that he was still inherently having this prophetic overtone to his Kabbalah, although in second stage of his life he was more into the Theosophic Kabbalah. I believe that many of his compositions are made under the influence of the technique learned by Rafa Bulafia. So this is also here and there. It's a topic for a good paper, a good academic paper, but I still do not would have to collect data to prove it. But I was talking to some people who are experts in Gikatilla from other angles, and some of them were skeptical, some of them were actually interested. Wow, this is interesting point of view, but it still has to be proven. Um, but therefore, I believe that he is not just writing texts that are compilations under normal focus. They are in some extent influenced by altered state of mind of Abulafian techniques, I would say. In text, there is this accent on Serpent as a good being and Serpent as a bad being only because of dislocation, only because of changing the structure of his positioning, and also changing the structure from atemporal side when it's eternal or before the time is being created, and temporal when Serpent is a part of the process that is happening in time. And also there's kind of two prophecies. One, which is stemming from the contaminated tools, so to speak, and it's more visionary, but only visionary. And the second one, that of Moshe, purified. And if it's also visionary, it's more auditory, more about hearing, and also be receptacle. And this was the topic of our, more or less, of our first meeting. And of course, we had insight to the manuscripts, etc. Then the symbolism. We were delving into this dynamics of Nachash and Chava Chivia, like the serpentess inside the woman. After she meets serpent, she is becoming the serpentine creation. But before that, she is Ish and Isha. There is female and male, and also another analogy: the Nachash and Nefesh, the soul, the living aspect, the vitality of all beings, and their relation to the serpent, being this collection of all the vitalities. Nachash and Mashiach. If there is a misplacement of the serpent, who is going to fix his place? Well, Mashiach, because he has the same numerical value. And Mashiach, as Nachash is shedding his skin, he's having several interesting features like serpent. He's anointed, his skin is shining, and so on and so forth. And we know also the statement from Zohar that the body of a man is a serpent's skin. And if we call a man as a being encompassing all the beings, all of the beings are serpent skin. And also there's dynamics of Yaakov and Nachash. Yaakov as this uh, prototype model of Messiah is the one who is actually uh, having a strong connection to the Nachash. Then the whole topic of Oscar Goldberg and Yosha Bach.
Excuse me, Aryeh,
Yes.
excuse me, just a second, please.
Yes.
Paula has contacted me asking if you could accept her again, because apparently she went out of the connection involuntarily and needs to be accepted again in order to join
Yeah,
us.
I'm sorry. Thank you. I didn't have notification. All right. Paula is with us. Yes. I'm sorry, Paula. Yeah. Thank you. I'm sorry. I haven't seen the notification. I'm so sorry.
Oh, my bad, because I have a double screen and I think I did something with the audio and then I left and then I had to go back. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, it happens. Yeah. But this part that I spoke, just come back to the recording. By the way, the recording will be available only as of Thursday. And Natalie informed me, so a little bit patience this time, please. The first session we had actually from the same site but different room that I am right now. I had a session just before Purim. Yeah, 1 week before Purim, I guess. It was about, or 1 week after Purim, it was about Oscar Goldberg and Yosha Bach, the guys who are theorizing, providing theories um, about life related to the serpent and also the primordial cell, and also calling seriously bringing back the seriously topic of soul into the scholar academic dispute, not in theological vein, but just treating it as an operating system that is required on every living being, starting from a cell to the most complicated organisms. And also the projects, how those projects of life are actually in some sort of dispute. One project is by Yudke Vavke, by Hashem, who wished or wishes still continuously to provide the life without suffering and without dying, life immortal, life eternal, but it doesn't mean life without complexity of different consciousnesses. And the second project, life in a reincarnative, dying and rebirth cycle, as Hindu people would say, samsara, uh, which is the project of variety of different Elohims or Elohim, different gods, and those projects are contradicting each other. And at both of those projects, the serpent is also a prominent symbol, paradoxically, but if we look into deep, we see that there is actually no paradox in itself. It's just a different positioning of serpent, of a life. Then we had this fascinating topic about evolution of the mankind while being intertwined in the evolution of the serpents. And the Linus Bell topic of assessment that is widely accepted these days, that serpents has a lot of to do with making us become who we are, not only by enhancing our vision, but also developing the evolutionary pressure to let us towards most probably developing designative language and then symbolic language. We also discussed the Professor Wiercinski analogies in serpent characteristics of behaviors towards the potential of how to actually how the symbols can be developed out of those features and characteristics. And we didn't speak about Mikhail Adzema because I decided that he's too far-fetched a little bit. And I haven't removed it from this slide, but we remove it from the content. And also several land from the next meeting about the prophecy were removed because I started to be too skeptical about his idea that this Kikayon for sure is psilocybin, and for sure it's also influenced by Egyptian ideas. That's some of the features in the Egyptian mythology are referring to the psilocybin. It's dubious, but we did speak about the Nachash and the Nachesh, and also Nachash Nechoshet, and the gaining prophetic powers from Serpent's venom by Bil'am, and so on and so forth. Then we spoke again about life, but as a life form of unity, as a primordial soul encompassing everything. So the theory of James Lovelock and Lynn Margulis about the Gaia idea, and also the fictional, but not so much fictional in my opinion, vision of Stanislaw Lem in Solaris about one planetary organism that encompasses many consciousnesses. Of course, it was the elaboration of the theory of Yosha Bach about the consciousness, soul, and soul as a software within the every organism, and also collective soul, collective software of all the beings collected together, which actually will be much more a topic of kind of continuation today. And yeah, last week we spoke about the Paleolithic material and then some other cultures. So it's just not coincidence that the latest known, confirmed by the most skeptical minds, ritualistic usage of ritualistic site from Paleolith, from just so ancient, so prehistoric times, 80,000, 70,000 years ago, in Botswana, in Sodilo, the Great Python Rock, and what was actually being done there around this rock, what we can assume from the artifacts. Amazing story also about Milky Way, how the astronomical observation is actually was actually providing the first artifact, and then the symbolization upon this artifact was built up, and it is traceable to almost every culture that observes Milky Way, which is in nutshell probably every one of them on this planet. And we also spoke previously. We also spoke about dracunculiasis, and also we spoke here about all those symbols leading towards the Judaism symbols. And here and there, I also provided some insights that were occurring just semi-spontaneously about the permutations of Gan Eden and all the things I actually learned because of our session. So thank you for this, actually, because this was one of the goals of those meetings. And today we have, I think, encompassing. I think every of those previous sessions were preparing us for today. The second part will be very personal because I will actually be speaking about my experiences in the so-called participatory observation when I was participating 5 years ago in the sessions organized by Corinne Sombrun, which I was extremely skeptical, and I'm still skeptical, but in this good sense of skepticism, but I cannot say that it doesn't work. On the contrary, it works what she's doing, and I'm very eager that she actually develops with her technique. But without stepping too much ahead of schedule, here is going beyond, is about the concept that when I heard first about it, I said no. It's just too much mumbo jumbo. It's new age in its bad sense. It's not something that I will follow, and it's not something that I will definitely be interested in. It's when you are really bored, you can read a little bit Erich Daniken, and it is fascinating stories, but this is just Bubemeise, as we say. It's just okay, interesting topics without some proper methodologies, and that's it. And then end of the story. But we are talking here about three different people, and there are many more who are continuous this legacy. But first was definitely someone who is not doubt in his legacy. It was Gerardo Reichel Dolmatov and Joran Narby, also in the 90s and afterwards, and Maciej Kuczynski, whom I met in person, and person that is close by heart to Valery, because he was also a speleologist, and his speleological experiences and endeavors, adventures led him to be exposed to some material from the Mesoamerica, and they all came together. They all had something to do with ayahuasca and Amazonia and Mesoamerica. That's granted, but they all independently or semi-independently, definitely Rachel Domatov, they developed the theory that man is capable under specific circumstances to delve into attention and communicate with its own program or in its own structures of his own program or its own body. That is, the attention can descend into the cellular level and even further into other levels and communicate with the information that is there, which is already like, whoa. Yeah.
No, it's true.
Yeah, no, that's the point. That's the point. The first impression was for me, it's a good story. There are good reads. I really like to read fantasy. I like to read science fiction. I like to read Kurt Vonnegut's fantastic stories in his alter ego of Cute Girl Throat, all those kind of stuff. Yes, it's amusing. But the point is here, it's puzzling because the material, the anthropological, ethnological material is just corroborating it so much that it's, and we already spoke for 7 meetings, yes, about it. That most probably this is exactly how the communication within the BIOS is happening, and we just are on the verge of putting the brightest brains in different interdisciplinary meetings to give a methodology to really delve into that more and more serious way. And each of those names that I brought here, I call it the Rachel Dolmatov Narby Kuczynski theory. They are very serious already. And they were also as skeptical, even more so skeptical than me, but they were there. They were doing their ethnographic research. They were spending years and living among different Amazonian and Mesoamerica tribes. And they did what they did. They wrote their papers with a lot of reservations, but they said yes. But it looks like that this is it. This is what is happening there in the background. So this is it. This is the theory that, in short, one uses a specific catalyst to change the mindset, be that entheogen, be that psychedelic, or how you call it, or specific techniques like Corinne room, and then the access to different attention is open. And in this attention, one can obtain the knowledge that otherwise can be also obtained by, I don't know, microscopic analysis, and eventually, why is it about the serpent? Because, in short, Amazonian shamans, they claim that they just saw those intertwined two serpents, the helix of the structure that we see and we know about DNA. Those people, those researchers were puzzled that the shamans of Amazonia, people who are not educated in the Western medicine and Western biology, they know the same thing and they just talk about it, and they also have recordings in an oral tradition about it, but just using different symbols and different metaphorics. However, this is what is present in the material that they are passing through the generations in their own culture. So the question was, how, for example, did they learn about ayahuasca, which we know that this is just two different species of different plants, and one is working as an inhibitor of the solution of the other, who is active DMT, dimethyltryptamine. And the answer was that this is exactly the plants that told us. The vision through the plants, probably different plants, gave us, the shamans say, gave us the understanding what is actually, how we should combine those two different plants to have a very potent elixir, very potent drink called yake, ayahuasca, kuranita, and so on and so forth. All those different names are applicable to this very interesting natural DMT. Yeah. So I don't know if you are also aware. Watson and Crick's, one of them claimed that when they were searching for the appropriate model of DNA, actually the helix, the double helix, came to mind of one of them in a dream. And then, following the dream, they managed to fix the model in their own fashion, in the Western science fashion. But the dream was actually the inspiration. So it's not far-fetched. It's just, Western science was not back then openly speaking about it, but those researchers whom I am presenting right now, they definitely were. So the idea here is that how is it also connected? All the time I want to accentuate how is it connected to our discourse. It's this nachash nichush. The life wants to communicate with us. The life itself wants to communicate with us. The most presumably advanced mind as a expression of life, the mankind, through the nichush, lenachesh, through the divination, through the aspect of prophecy. So life is also, first of all, about the communication further through generation to generation, but it's also the vitality itself. So it's just as if speaking about your own guts, yes, about your own innards, about your own heart, about your own livelihood. But speaking which language? Language of descriptions, it's inappropriate. It will be always very shallow. But language of experience, of getting there in experiential mode, and experiencing the life, it's like experiencing its own infrastructure. Well, this is something that apparently part of the living organisms, they are inducing on the human brains, and vice versa. It's like a symbiosis, like this constant need for getting knowledge about own life. And again, I'm referring to the our Jewish mythos of knowledge given by the serpent. So this is one thing. Another thing is that there is this aspect of healing. Apparently, Amazonia tribes, shamans, they are speaking about it's not only just to seek knowledge, it's that knowing those things heals you from different diseases, and also heals your mind in many aspects. And this is the work of a shaman. This is about all the levels of healing. Ultimate healing is that understanding that there is no death, or if there is a death, it can be cured through understanding that this is just passing through one more journey stage. And I'm not talking about nice, cozy explanation to remove our fear of death or fear of.
Mute me, please. Please mute me. My dogs are noisy.
Oh, we are not hearing your dogs.
Oh, good.
And maybe if they want something to contribute, who knows? It's like maybe we have to tune in. Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyone hears dogs of Nomi? I don't hear. So in a nutshell, it's this assumption that what is this entoptic? Entoptic is something that belongs to inside but is seeing outside. anyone who experienced even simple play. I don't know. When I was a child, I was doing this pressuring on my eyes and having fun of seeing these very specific different geometric patterns that are happening when you pressure on your eyeballs. And everyone has it. Have you ever tried it? Yeah.
As a
So this
child,
is one of my first as a child striving for altered states of mind and think, oh, that's so funny. You can see geometric things if you put the pressure on your eyeballs. And in case
I personally went to an operation, a laser operation in my eye, and during the
2 weeks ago.
operation, a number of images and patterns and everything occurs, and it comes spontaneously. At the given moment, I thought I was into the Stanley Kubrick's film 2001, because
see,
it was a kind of a thing that you couldn't control, but the images would come out with certain number of forms. I mean, it wasn't chaotic. It had the beams had a different form and dream, etc. Well, it's pure anecdote.
yeah, but it is contributing to this whole concept because if you look also at this ornamental cultures or ornamental expressions in the cultures all over the world, if you look at it and compare it also with the statements of the people who saw these entoptic visions of geometrical patterns under the altered state of mind, it's all the same. It's like now we understand where is it emerging from. First, there were shamanic experiences, and then people started to make those ornaments of labyrinths or all those spirals or those nice flowerish circuits, etc., etc., and also Ionic, Doric, and Corinthian pillars, and Mesoamerican, those complex labyrinths. It's all stemming from the vision that was there primordially and passed through generation to generation. But this is again and again off topic to some extent, or also expression that is external towards the internal experience. So let's start with Rachel Dolmatov. He was a very interesting person because his journey towards Amazonia is also being, uh, let's say, marked by the tragedy of his youth. I don't know if it's known to you, but he was actually part of the SS. He was a part of Hitlerjugend. He was, of course, to what extent was he voluntary or not? According to his statement, it was just something that the small children or teenagers were doing in this specific times in the 30s in Austria and in Germany. However, he got a major mental breakdown at the age of early age when he was 24, 22. Yes, it was 30, 35, 36, and then he just totally changed his approach. He ran away from this dark time and dark part of the world, and he studied later on in France, and then moved immediately to South and Mesoamerica, and where he spent most of his time. And he also self-reflected later on in his diaries that actually he felt that this darkness and this evil that he was partaking in, and that he could even be partaking further, was miraculously being healed by his experiences with the Amazonian Indians. And of course, when Amazonian Indians, we are speaking about ayahuasca and also most probably psilocybin mushrooms there. And eventually he became a renowned anthropologist. And the paper we are going to discuss right now briefly today is his analysis of the Desana tribe shamanism, and it's called Brain and Mind in Desana Shamanism. I shared you this paper. Please don't share it further because it was really like I was asked to share only privately for the purpose of scholarship. For some reason, they are really keeping it in order, and But otherwise, it's hard to get this paper. So I got it only because of affiliation to one organization. So the Sana theory of brain is that the serpent is also being visualized as this permeating being, also on different levels of being, on the geography of this Maloka house, the house of meeting between a female and male, also of brain, and also of realms in the cellular, and also realms in the heavens, so to speak. But at the end of the day, also Kuczynski later on, he likes to stress that heaven of Quetzalcoatl, I'm jumping a little bit too different, but it's similar methodology. Heaven of Quetzalcoatl apparently is a cell. He's dwelling in the inner spheres of the creatures he created or he co-created with Tlaloc. So how much is it resembling already the story of Gan Eden, that the perfect uh, insight of the creation was also a dwelling form for the creator. Yud Kevav Ke created Gan Eden, and it was the resonance with Gan Eden that he had. But going back to the Sana theory of brain, they are speaking about female-male polarization and mind. Let's mind our analogy to Gan Eden containing Ish and Isha, and Adam and Chivya. It's just I'm looking for those analogies. I know, but they are just also coming naturally because they seem to be invariants among the cultures. It's just the details with the metaphorics and how to call things and how to express them. They may be here and there, but they may be obvious to happen, but the invariants are actually very similar. And here is the Sanasphere of brain further, this ancestral anaconda as a continuation of the rebirth of the specific groups in the tribe. And I like this idea by the Sana about they are being guided, and always there's this goal of attaining this divine rock crystal, like this ideal life representation that it has to be seek towards. It's like an attractor towards which everything is oriented. So here I understand it as a Gan Eden in its prime form, but also restored ideal world, and also this continuity of linear life seen as a serpent guided by this attractor of ideal. And also what Rachel Domatov stresses is what is the way to actually get a contact with the inner serpent, with the inner motivator, inner life. It's this what they call pe'iri, which is like to hear, to act, implies the need for the mind to become aware, to listen to what the left hemisphere demands, and then put this demand into practice. So the left, the more analytical, is being given this hearing, changing from activity to passivity, and also there is this shift between the roles and the movement of the neurotransmission within the brain, which is for me as if or directly analogy to the notion that psychedelics and shamanic trances, cognitive trances, and any kind of techniques are actually changing the vector of neurotransmission. This is what they do. The neurotransmission is still happening, but in different vector, and therefore the different views and the different worlds and the different results of brain activity are appearing, are emerging. Jeremy Narby, I'm just showing it briefly. I just want to accentuate that this is there. This is there in the analysis of Rachel Dolmatov. It was published in the 80s. It was a matter of his research for years before. And as usually, such a papers either are revolutionary in its own time or are being so skeptically received that they are being silenced. And this paper was like convincing many researchers, as far as as far as I recall reading the literature about the reception of those conclusions of Rachel Dolmatov. Some researchers were saying, okay, the old good Rachel Dolmatov got crazy and he became one of the Indians and too much ayahuasca, and this is the result. So they were still treating hallucinogens and any kind of participatory observation or being part of the culture they are also trying to learn from as some sort of not serious in a scholar way. But as we know, many followed also in the counterculture hippie movements. Like even if we still and we have to consider, for example, Carlos Castaneda works as a fraud in a sense of ethnography and also invented material, and rightly so, his PhD was revoked. It doesn't matter because if you look from the perspective of his impact on the interest on the topic, many people got into the practices, and also this tourism of ayahuasca is just a common phenomenon already. Um, I don't want to judge it. I don't want to say anything in pros and cons about it. I still believe that it's much better than if someone is pursuing this, it's much better than eating too much sugar, which is the most lethal drug for the last 40, 400, 300 years. Also, the tragedy of spreading sugar is, as we know, stemming from tragedy of exploiting of the slaves from the Africa. And Jeremy Narby actually is speaking about it. What is the Jeremy Narby, Timothy Leary, many others were saying, Terence McKenna, that this is the worst drug ever because it's debilitating mind of the people and also affecting negatively development of our children. And for the adults, what is the worst drug? It's the sugar in the form of alcohol, which also does the similar things. I'm not talking about wine, I'm not talking about the beer, I'm talking about the hard spirits and alcoholism and how much it's actually just legal, but it should be it should be first legalized. All those exploitive narcotics, this is still a little different than the psychedelics or entheogens or how you call them, because uh, the first are causing a huge dependency and addictions, whereas the latters, there is no addiction to psilocybin. There is no addiction to ibogaine. On the contrary, ibogaine is being used for healing from addiction from the opiates, from all the heroin, all the similar drugs that are addicting so much. And yeah, just in short, a little bit digression about it, but it was also stemming from Jeremy Narby, who is here with his book Cosmic Serpent. And this book really was like for me, I knew that I had to read it, and I was like, okay, it will be light because I will just have a lot of fun. But the more I was reading, the more I was just thinking, well, I have to review the way I am thinking about the topic. Narby just developed and put it into um, explicit framework, so to speak, what Rachel Dolmatov was saying inter alia. And as we had in this slide above, this is the quote from below from Jeremy Narby. To me, this was compelling evidence that entoptic microscopy is a part of shamanic visions, is part of what shamanic visions are about. The shamanic visions are causing the descent into the DNA level, and the DNA is under some specific DNA molecular level, under some specific visionary circumstances. They seem to be behaving like an intelligence in itself. Here I am a bit more skeptical than Narby. And also let's say the output, the descriptions of those shamanic journeys or hallucinogenic journeys of many other ethnologists, because I would like to stress one thing. It all can still be that this is a spectrum of brain activity, but there are several different in some sort of a ladder spectrums of attention. And it's not that this is the true one and the other one is false. It's just there are spectral layers, and there is some reason, for example, why we are all triggered as a majority of mankind to be having similar vision called the world, the reality. Well, we are under the same, more or less the same mixture of gases like oxygen, nitrogen, what is this, argon, and a little bit of CO2, and uh, carbon oxide too. And it's just this mixture is already some sort of a drug to which we are addicted to. Well, without it, we cannot live. And one can say, yes, so you are addicted to that. Yeah, we kind of yes. We change a little bit of those ingredients, like even change the pressure under which we breathe. It happened to me, for example, a couple of years ago. I was first time in my life scuba diving, and I went out of the scuba diving with euphoric. I was really hugging my tutor and was saying, "Oh, you are my savior. This is the best thing, or whatever." And I was like speaking things of praise towards him. And he looked at me and he said, "Aha, so you are this type of guy, the first who goes scuba diving, because there are two levels, one euphoric and another depressive. And you are the euphoric guy. Okay, I like you more because with depressive I have to deal more, you know." So yeah, I after 5 minutes I started to understand, wow, okay. So this was it. I was having different gases in my during my breathing were affecting me differently, and just pure chemistry. So here, I don't want to say that. Um, I assume that if someone is, say bluntly, taking ayahuasca and experiencing the unity with the life serpent, it doesn't mean that this is the ultimate truth. Because the yogin, under different techniques, you will experience something a little bit different from different spectrum. And again, yogin, then someone practicing the retreat of vipassana of Buddhist satipatthana vipassana bhavana, the insight of the inner fire focus meditation. And for 10 days or 30 days he's not speaking, and he's recurringly entering into this state. He's entering into a little bit different spectrum here. And after the break, I would like to also speak about this, what is called this auto-induced cognitive trance by Colin Sombrun. She took it, extracted it from Mongolian techniques. So I also believe this is a little bit different, and every one of these giving a little bit different shade. And at some point, I hope there will be this some cataloging and very much laboratory research into putting those spectrum revelations into some order. Because it seems to me, from what I read about the topic, what I also encounter in different more or less participatory let's say insights, to put it delicately, I see the differences between them. There is different accents between different different ways to change the state of mind. It's not that there is one, for example, which would be called one category called hallucinations, and the other is reality, or vice versa. Those who are skeptical about the reality commonly believed as reality, they say, no, this is hallucination. The true world is only in the visions. This validating it and putting it into some sort of axiology is too early, too preliminary. I don't believe that everyone or the civilization or the culture could live if everyone would be constantly in ayahuasca mode. And shamans of all the cultures, of most of the cultures around the world, say the insights by descending or ascending, they like to use those vertical metaphors, either up or down, but more or less it's about the vertical metaphor of entering the different modes of consciousness, whereas our common consciousness is called horizontal. Those shamans are saying you should, and it's appropriate to visit those realms up and down from time to time, but not every time, because it's not the purpose of your life in the common sense of the meaning of life that is supposed to be happening in this horizontal mode. The travels within the consciousness should be from time to time, not too obsessive, not too much happening. Not every day, not to be greedy about it, because then you are losing also the purpose of activities in the life. That's more or less the impression that I have from all those different statements from different cultures and different also researchers. So Jeremy Narby, a bit younger, quite younger than Rachel Dolmatov, he again had a similar path. He landed in this time Peruvian Amazon, and he ended up also into the ecological vibe, and this is very much admired and to be praised. And he developed his key arguments are very much interesting to our topic. So, as I was also recurringly stating, many cultures worldwide use the serpent or twisted ladder symbol to represent the origins of life and knowledge. And it's very compelling because at the end of the day, it's so similar to this, compelling to find this similarity to DNA double helix. So the claims of the shamans that touching the serpent and being with the serpent, experiencing vision of the serpent is experience of the secret of life is again in some visual expressions, and later on drawings, very much bizarrely similar to the structures that the modern science speaks about DNA. And here I am again skeptical, but on the other hand, it's an overwhelming material here and there, especially like from the Jewish perspective that the chromosome, it's just whether you like it or not, it looks like a big aleph, the first letter of Hebrew alphabet, yeah, like the beginning. And Kuczynski, who puts those similarities to the extreme, and he is the most, let's say, at risk to state that those things are a little bit leading towards too much exaggerations. At some point, you start to see the topic of your interest everywhere, and you see analogies everywhere, and you are becoming less and less critical. Well, Kuczynski told me, I met him, and Kuczynski told me, yes, you know what? I was years struggling it. I was just studying, and I was saying, no, it's not there. I wanted to prove that there is something else. And at some point, I just gave up. I just started to see that in my reading, the myths of Mayas as Aztecs and all this Toltec also culture of Mesoamerica, is showing most probably through also the layer of experiential ritualistic usage of the psychedelics is leading to some sort of a way, and we don't know how and why, but we know that it is happening to see the infrastructure of the life and infrastructure of the cellular processes, infrastructure of the DNA. I must ask myself, why to stop at the DNA level? Why not to go further? And this skepticism is actually rightly so, but there is an answer. Shaman says yes. There are even deeper and deeper layers of the visions when one is experiences the vision of nothing. But then, if someone is experiencing vision of nothing, only the biggest and the strongest shamans uh, they can enter those visions and not collapse and not to get crazy. So there are limits of some descending and exploration, apparently, according to the shaman statements, exploration of the uh, most deep areas. Because yeah, eventually, how the creation can see its own creation program without losing mind, without actually still being a creation. And this reminds me again on this famous story from our lore, from Jewish lore, of four that entered the paradise.
Yes.
And yeah, and only one of them just didn't lose his mind. And one lost his mind, one died, and the third one became a heretic.
Shit on the floor.
Yeah, and the Rabbi Akiva was the only one who got sane from this trip, from this hallucinogenic, not hallucinogenic. Sorry, I'm just a little bit extrapolating from this. Definitely, uh, let's call it in theological terms, mystical endeavor.
Okay.
So
Here on the table. Sorry.
yeah, it's okay. It's okay. How Narby concludes his own book, he says, research indicates that shamans access an intelligence, which they say is nature's, and which gives them information that has stunning correspondence with molecular biology. And I like what about Rachel Dolmatov and Narby and Kuczynski. What I like about them is that they just throw this stone, they pose the question, they try to be as diligent as possible, but they just don't claim, okay, we know how is it happening and why is it happening. They want to just say there is something puzzling about it. There are invariants happening, and at some point we have to deal with it. So the best way to deal with it is, in my opinion, laboratory experiences, and this is what also is, as far as I know, Francesco's your main topic. My also, at the end of my book on Rav Abulafia, I write that it is my really great wish that one day there will be this laboratory, uh, very much well organized practice of Abulafian techniques under some supervision in order to really check what is going on different levels that we can measure, and actually just to check how is it work, why is it working, just develop the theories through experiential approach. As far as I know, it's actually being developed in many different groups, and yeah, uh, hopefully it will at some point meet also the laboratory, let's say, rigor of experiments, like Corinne Sombrum tries to do. But I will speak about her just after the break. But before that, I just want to give homage to my, I can say yes, my friend. I had a privilege to meet him 4 years before he passed away. He passed away in 2019. I met him in 2015, and he learned about my existence because already then I was about to finish uh, the draft of the PhD on Abulafia, and immediately I started to say, okay, and now I have to deal with the Serpent, and I started to do my own preliminary researches about the topic. and someone just connected us that Maciej had his last book published 3 years before he passed away, and he invited me to just give the let's say introduction to the presentation of his book during the market of the books that happened in Warsaw back then. Unfortunately, I think there is only one book of him in English, and his Valerie, you would really be you will be so much fascinated by this book. This abbreviation of this book is under this not abbreviation, some sort of summary of this book is under this link of Graham Hancock. But the book itself is beautiful. This The Worshippers of Serpent this has this parallel narrative because he's both speleologist and he's also both exploring in an amateur way his own interpretation of the archaeological material he's just studying at the same time. He was spending years there in Mesoamerica. So one chapter is about their descent and exploration of the caves, and it's like an adventure book. And then the second chapter speaks about archaeology, and the same. It's like intertwined, and you read this so nicely because it's like descent into the topic of the descent into the cave via speleology team, and also at the same time descent into the topic uh, of the ancient knowledge as assumed by Kuczynski that in ancient cultures of Toltecs, Aztecs, and Mayans and others were having access to the knowledge that we have right now in our molecular biology. And he was just an amazing person also beyond that because he's renowned as an explorer here and there. There was no place in the world, extreme place, that he wasn't there. And he also is responsible for really great discoveries. But in my circles, he's known as this person that claimed that the same thing like mutatis mutandis, the same things, the similar things like Rachel Dolmatov and Narby, that those cultures from Amazonia, they had some sort of ancient, but oral mainly, and just oral tradition, but also placed in a visual forms, in the form of drawings, knowledge about the molecular biology. And I hope that one day this book is translated, The Snake Worshippers. It's just really a good piece of literature, and it's very brave. It was not treated seriously in academic circles in Poland. It was treated like this kind of semi-fictional, but and then later, again, Maciej Kuczynski didn't have any academic, let's say, education, but he was really very diligent. He was very much applying this healthy skepticism towards his research. So for me, he's one of those this triad that is responsible for putting forward this topic, although he was restricted by using the Polish language, so he's not so much known outside of this lore. In last decade, we tried to change it, and apparently there are other people who know him, like Graham Hancock, who know him, and they managed to give him homage, also pay him homage by translating excerpts of his work to English. So this is exactly the excerpt from this page of Graham Hancock. And again, it's not something new that, of course, this book and Rachel Dolmatov and Narby's inspired me to search analogy in the Jewish lore. I was just trying to, when I was thinking about Gan Eden as a primordial cell, of course, it comes to mind to everyone. Yeah, okay, you can think about this. I was just trying to reread different strata of the Jewish lore through this kind of applied hypothesis. And I wanted to actually find that, okay, it's not applicable so much, but different myths are actually showing different results. And we cannot speak about invariant. And I failed. I failed to my joy that, yeah, actually I proven that there is invariant, and this started to change the narrative of my own research. I started to be actually convinced about existing of this invariant, that there is a way actually that you can read, at least you can read those sources across different cultures in our world through the lens of this assumption that they are speaking about biology, molecular biology, different strata of biology, and at least yes, referring to the cellular dynamics, the dynamics within a cell. And further on, when inspired by Yoshabach, I just started to see it. Well, you can speak seriously about it and not be classified as a New Age or any kind of dubious researcher. You can just rightly so prove your point that this is rereading the sources through different lenses, and that's it. And I really like this statement that I just hear underlined, that in Zapotec's Indians term for the snake, I don't know how to read it, Shika Piteromani, I think, which means animal from God's vessel. Like, we wouldn't just apply it better for Havachivya and for the Nachash, the one who is the vessel of God being Gan Eden, and the inside, the inner of it is Havachivya, this energetical aspect of the man, of Adam Kadmon, this called female, but also the serpentine, this the one that is responsible for this the most vital aspect of life, not the maybe so much intelligibilia, but the energetical one, the one who represents the element of life, the chaos of life, this powerful vitality. So maybe let's have, yeah, it's already 7:05, 5 minutes or 4 minutes, and I will be very happy to speak about this. And here I can speak also from my experience, which I think maybe is interesting, about nichush, I would say. So let's meet maybe at 10 past. Oh, okay, 3 minutes. Yeah, maybe 7:12. All right.
Okay.
I unmuted.
Thank you for this. I don't know if it is any help to you or to others, but for me, it's a help. I have a basic view that permeates everything you're saying, gives an underpinning to it, that gets it away from paradoxical oppositions. It keeps the paradox, but not the oppositions. That Jung's view, on which I'm built, it turns out, is that the archetype, and I don't mean the archetypal image, before the image, it's a dynamic. It's a dynamic that means we view the archetype is the self-portrait of the instinct. The archetypal dynamic is the way the instinct pictures itself. So if you view all that you are saying about the snake as an instinct, which I think it is, the instinctual way of meandering through life, then you don't have to concretize it.
Yeah, that's part of the symbol of serpent. It will always be not concrete. Yeah.
But it has a profound meaning to it. But we don't have to say it's this and not that. And it's obvious that it appears everywhere in the world. And there was something else, but I'm too distracted by things around me right now.
Thank you for this. Yeah.
Excuse me? Huh?
Yeah, please continue.
The danger in drugs is I was always opposed to it with all of my friends, beginning with Timothy Leary and the LSD thing. They became infatuated with it. And I do believe that if people have a strong, strong core, you can take those hallucinogens and know that you reach them anyhow. I don't think you need a drug. You don't need a test. They are there. And if you are open to them, it comes to you and you get great visions, but you are not seduced by them. The problem is that people become seduced by it.
They use it first of all out of the ritual context. They use it not like the indigenous tribes, that there is some specific
Exactly.
rules. And for
They don't have a feeling for God to put, yes. There's
people after psilocybin mixed with alcohol, they are getting crazy and they are mixing up things and they don't perceive this as a hygienic. It's like going to a restaurant and asking for the most delicious meals and ask, please bring me mixer, mix it up. It's the same things, elaborate and with the most expensive wine, whatever. And to have this kind of mixture and to just nourish, yeah, and pay this bill for thousands of dollars. And yeah, but this is it. Is a human way or is it really some sort of chaotic way of dealing with things? So the same is with psychedelics and any other methods. They have to undergo some rigor of discipline. So, for
not
example,
just rigor. It's not
yeah,
just rigor. A it's a contact with your own psyche, which is your own plus the universe's. But it's a real, not just a ritual that helps. That helps the devotional attitude. Devotional is the word I mean. The devotional.
yeah, reverence to the topic also, and also not taking it recreationally, because the ones you give to this deep states, the what you give to that, you will get it in the most augmented way in the visions. So people who are not fasting, for example, before any kind of experiments or any kind of practices, or people who are not treating it profoundly, they are getting yeah, taken away by the topic. Yes, I am aware of that, and I am strongly opposing the consumptionary usage also of psychedelics. Well, what can I say? Our world has different layers, and it is happening. But here, the most important thing, what you mentioned, this is exactly the topic of what Corinne Sombrun says, and this was really. And I would like to really give you. I feel really open to that, just to share that, yes, I was participating in that because it was my scholar project. I was actually probably the only one who was there for different reasons, because it was like for performatory arts people meeting during the some sort of festival of dance. And Corinne was working with artists, also performatory, let's say, performatory groups like different theaters. She was addressing the topic of cognitive trance to different groups, but also to the actors, because she found it interesting that actors can actually benefit from being exposed to this kind of technique of awareness.
No, I'm sure. I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So it was quite funny because I was there in this group. The only first of all, I was the only Jew, so I was with Tzitzit and Kippa, and they also Corinne and her group of her team were like looking. They were from Belgium, from France, and they were like, "Wow, aren't you just supposed not to be here? You just like you don't participate in such a stuff." So I explain. I'm also academician. For me, this is a scholar topic. This is not denominationary practice, although the technique is stemming from Mongolian techniques that Corinne brought from Mongolia. She made it out of the context, and she used it with her own genius, because she's also the um, she's her main job is this dealing with the uh, audio recordings. So she's a great technician, and this is what brought her to Mongolia. She was supposed to record the sounds for BBC series and some documentaries, and it ended up in shifting her life. But I'm just a little bit going forward from the order of the topic. Anyway, for me, participating in this was a part of, okay, seeing by myself what is it happening, and actually checking up how come simple or semi-simple sound loop can actually trigger things I was reading in some specific books about shamanism or about any kind of cognitive trances, and I was really impressed because it's, first of all, it's cognitive. It's not possessive trance. No one is losing any kind of control, and you can always say no to that. But it's much more interesting to say yes to what is happening. But there were some people who were saying no, we don't want to participate in that, and they were saying stop, and they were going out without any harm.
I hope you know I'm not saying no to it.
No, at all,
Okay.
Nomi. I know it's just you are probably, as me, having this no towards consumptionism within the psychedelics, because there is already consumptionism in the substances that are called narcotics. So I call narcotics also sugar, alcohol, cocaine, heroin. Definitely, there is nothing psychedelical about them. They are just boosting up some features, and eventually they are really doing a lot of harm. And I don't think something positive can, in the long run, stemming from them. Of course, the usage of the wine or a beer or soft from time to time, it's moderate, it's different, or natural sugars in the in the plants. But putting sugar into everything that we eat, and then dealing with the problems of obesity in our times, where I myself, I'm struggling with overweight just because of inappropriate nutritions. But going back to this, it's just, yeah, we don't want to have abusive usage also of psychedelics, and also abusive usage of any kind of practices and techniques. So
Believe the basic instinct of life is rhythm. That came to me when I was very young. It's rhythm. The snake is an image of rhythm. The undulating snake.
Also, referring to what you say about the rhythm, it needs appropriate pace. So this is also referring a bit to what I said. So that shamans across the planet, they are stressing you cannot be in the visionary state all the time. You go there in the intervals, and those intervals are called sacred. They are special. They have to be treated in reverence, because it's the big time vertical trip. Whereas any other trips that we are performing in the world are on geographical way, they are horizontal. And vertical, it means that they are very intensive, and they are also leaving the mark into our existence, because they are very much profound. They are touching the very core of our life substance. So here is this excerpt about definition of the auto-induced cognitive trance is taken from this website, transscience.org. So you could, in the background, you could just read it through, but I don't know if it's actually Corinne here or someone else. She was doing this research she wanted to show to neuroscientists that there are different fields of brain being activated during this trance, and so on and so forth. But let's go first through a little bit of her story. Again, I just gave you here the biography from the web page about her, but I know some things directly from her also, and I know some things through the autobiographical movie that I was advertising. Really, I recommend you. This is a very good movie, and the interesting thing is that I know that some of the material that is auditory material there is actually the original recordings of Corinne that she made. That when she visited first Mongolian female shaman, she just involuntarily entered the trance, and this female shaman was angry at the agent who was bringing Corinne as a external visitor. She was angry at her. You wanted to kill me. You cannot, during one session, have two shamans. And she is a shaman. We're just thinking about Corinne. She just doesn't know about it. She could kill me. You know, they're also saying that one session cannot have two very strong, not maybe personalities, but very strong shamanic activities happening at once, because it can be dangerous. Those dynamics of the shamanic performances are stressing it here and there, this factor. And Corinne was telling us she just started to howl like a wolf. It's not howl like a wolf. She started to be a wolf. Exactly. The whole theory of totemism. Why I'm bringing this here? Because Serpent encompasses all bios. So all the expressions, or be that plants, be that animals, are there inherently in our brain. And the totality of the life is within us, because we are supposedly at the at the at the highest peak of evolution. It can be doubted, but let's say it is. And therefore we can self-reflect and we can encompass all the bios. So we can be a wolf, we can be a bird, we can be a tiger. Everything is within us in potencies. And I will just tell you what happened later with Corinne. Corinne, after this situation, she just ran away from Mongolian, when the Mongol tribe. When the shaman said, you know what, you will have to come back here, because it's not just accident that you are here, and you are a shaman. So it will either you will refuse this gift and you will live your life in a misery, and there will be forthcoming further chaos, or you will just come back to me and learn how to tamper it, and how to train this what is happening with you, and use it for good. So hearing that, Corinne, what did she do? She just ran away to France, and she went through check of her brain, if there is a tumor, if there is something else, why she did have such an episode. So she behaved quite rationally. It proven that everything is fine with her hardware. So after a couple of months, she came back to Mongolia, and gradually she was fully trained in the Mongolian shamanic tradition of the specific group. Let's put it aside. There are other books by her about it. What is interesting for us is that she started to be interested. This is really a phenomenon that is only reserved for specific, very susceptible, very sensitive people, and they can become shamans, or is it referring to the anthropological potential that is in every one of us? So she was, as I mentioned, she was the musicologist, and also she was also proficient in registering the music. So she was expert in audio recordings, and she started to work with what is the trigger in the Mongolian shamanism? The drumming. Specific drumming, specific tempo, specific rhythm, specific beat, etc., and specific tone and specific level of the vibration, of the, how is it called, frequency. And then she started to extract it, because she assessed that around 20% of people are susceptible, from the specific groups she analyzed, are susceptible, or they will respond towards this specific shamanic drumming. So only 20%. But she just had this theory that you have to extract the factor that is there underlying, and by extracting it, you can maybe improve this percentage. So my friend, actually, in 2019, he was first exposed in Vienna to this topic, and he was my best friend from the high school. And he said, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to, my friend is inviting me, for whom I gave some help with his theater, and he invites me to this sessions. Probably it's a mambo jumbo, new age. And the next day he says, you know what, this is a serious topic. And he was really speaking in different way around. And his session lasted 5 days, mine also 5 to 6 days, 6 days actually. And this is like training. And she says, guys, just be open to that, what is happening, and don't worry, at any point you can withdraw, but it's advised not to withdraw because this is really a complete experience. But if you have any doubts, there is advisory group, and it was really very, very well organized session. So what she did, we are there in such a place. This was the place in the outskirts of Vienna. And there are a group of those 20 people around who volunteered to this session. Most of them dancers, performers. As I said, I was the only one who was like standing from this group. Different maybe expectations. I called it like participatory observation. And at some point, Corinne says, "Okay, let's start. I will just put the loop on." And there were those light speakers. It sounds like any kind of electronic music, but it's not. It's this sound loop of a very, very specific vibration. And what I can say, it's immediately doing something. For example, I cannot just describe the mechanism, but I was aware I could close my eyes and then be more introspective. I could also open my eyes and see myself and the others. There is this rush into assuming a specific position of the body, and it's a very strange position, usually. As if the body wants to have the best comfortable position is something that normally I would say it's totally freaky position. And then also there's this urge to utter something, some voice, and it's very strange. I was a little bit like feeling not at ease, and I was also thinking if I am trying something, if I am inventing something, if this is like semi-acting. And I noticed that other people were also kind of a little bit acting bizarre, but it was like probably tuning in into that. But I felt that something is actually, I can say no at any time to what is happening. I can go out and say, okay, I don't want. At the same time, I was just choosing yes. So out of this 20 people, I noticed more or less majority was still letting it happen, but it was just bizarre feeling. And at some point, I just decided to close my eyes and let's see what is happening in introspection to have a better focus. And it definitely was triggering a lot of visionary stuff, which we were later, throughout all these 5 days, we were advised to either register it with the drawings, immediate drawings, or some sort of semi-automatic drawing during the session, all kind of stuff. There were different parameters being changed in order to show that actually, ultimately, it's not about this loop. It's what is inside of us and inside of probably every man, but it's just about conditioning of acculturization that makes it either absent or present within the human beings. So the first session, those sessions, the feeling was that it lasted for me like 7 minutes. I learned after the first one that it was like 30 minutes. Other people were saying it felt for me like 2 hours, but Corinne said yes, it was 30 minutes. So people have different this kind of feeling of changes in time, and it was like, okay, it's interesting. So after it's interesting, the second one, immediately after the first recapitulation, we spoke 15 minutes, and then she said, okay, let's try again. And in the second one, I noticed that really immediately we are still already probably like dynamized, like moved by the first session. So what happened to me actually is something similar to that I would say what happened to Corinne, even by the same let's say some sort of descending to the similar animal.
Tell him to begin his work without me.
We did.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And although I didn't know back then that I didn't know the movie by Corinne, I didn't know her experiences, but what happened to me is that really I just fell to my knees and I started to howl. And the more I howled, the more I felt better, that this is my proper way of expressing myself. And I felt that the people that were just next to me, they started to be open by my openness of this howling. They were even more open, and the other person was doing also some strange noise. And because we all felt at this moment what is authentic and what is triggering further the resonance of the group. And this was a big time. From that moment, we really had this kind of, if you looked from the outside, you looked like really crazy people. But the point is, it's not actually leading to any kind of just howling for howling. It was just expression of that moment that this loop, this sound loop is just evoking. And still to this moment, I'm just very amazed. How is it that the loop, that the sound can do things that usually I would assume are the result of very serious session with psychedelics from one side, or any kind of very much advanced deprivatory techniques of shamanism. Here we are talking about sound loop, and it's reversible. After 20, 30 minutes, things go back to norm. And at some point later on, I just learned that this is not about the sound loop. This sound loop is just augmenting this. There is this notions of the keys. There are keys and for every person there are different keys that are leading to his own personal micro trance, medium trance, full-fledged trance. It just needs, like everything in our abilities, it needs a practice, it needs training, and then it can be actually evoked at will. It's auto-induced. So it's controllable. It's not possessive. This is a very important thing. What I wanted to mention here. So the thing about totemism in the theory, that this all-encompassing bios being the collective that builds up the body of a serpent, is being treated in many ethnographical descriptions as a fixed thing. So, for example, if someone was born in a tribe of the bear, he's forever connected to bear. Someone with the raven, etc., etc. And also we have this in our emblems in our Western culture, the emblems of the griffon or the eagle. So then you are represented by this very symbol. It's far-fetched, distorted, let's say, very superficial knowledge of the deeper knowledge that actually at each and specific moments one has access to different aspects of the bios inside, and the symbols, I don't know if to call them symbols, the connection to specific animals is just representing the specific need for the specific moment for the specific task. And one day you can be connected to the wolf, then the second day you can be connected to the bear. There was this beautiful actually person I befriended during this session, beautiful person who was normally working as a clown for children in a palliative states, and he was a clown visiting the hospitals, and he was participating in this group. He, throughout all the sessions, he was having the connection to the snail. So it was very funny because he was saying, I feel like I am very slimy, and I started actually to sweat so much. I was like removing all my water, and actually it was like this, we saw this kind of water of the sweat, nothing else. It was not any kind of urine or something else. No, he was just underneath him. It was after each session, there was this sweaty wetness, yeah, and it was not triggered by any kind of exercise. It just emitted it through becoming a snail. And he was speaking also about it. I felt this sliminess, and we were saying, wow, this is very cute. And of course there was a lot of humor about it, also a lot of immediately self-therapeuticizing, because this healing aspect is very interesting. This is my painting, by the way. This is from the first day or second, the painting of the colibri that is fighting off the invasion of the desert. And at this stage, I was thinking that actually the colibri is my identity at this moment, and the desert is this external danger. And later on, I just noticed that I had this emblem of the colibri on my t-shirt, my shirt that I wasn't aware, but it was just mind used the elements from around, and then started to develop the stories. But it was about getting into the very deep states of mind inside. And for example, on the second day, we were asked about perform this with the augmentation of this loop, but think about the person. And Corinne said, this person can be not alive yet. It can be a person that passed away, but the best is actually to focus on a person with whom you would like to talk to, communicate. It doesn't mean that any kind of communicating with the ghost, but just focus on the person and wish, if you want to speak about something specific topic, the more vital the connection with this person is, the better effects will be. We are training the skills. We are not doing any super psychotherapy, but of course, people were using their relatives or the partners, both present and not present. I just decided, okay, I want to contact. I want to say something to my father. Yeah, he was passed away already a long time ago, and it was one of the most profound things. I ended up in this kind of very strange position of my legs up with twisted hands and singing something, and I was all the time aware about it, but I just let it be that it actually happens, and the connection is there established for some reason or another. And there were a lot of interactions between the people. Some people interacted, some people wanted to be left alone, and it was all dynamic and changing every session after every session. The third day, Corinne started to propose, let's do the same, try, observe what are your keys, each one personal, and do it without the sound loop, or the sound loop is only for half. And actually, this was a mind-blowing situation, because when you are already moved into that, you understand that you don't need any sound loop. You don't need, as you Nomi mentioned, eventually we don't need any externalities, because as William Blake would say, the keys of the spiritual remind the human heart. They are just in there. And my idea is that it's just acculturation, lack of training, and we all have those things. For example, this is my key, and sometimes sometimes it's still being triggerable at some more specific focus. It can be, it's just very specific binding of my hand, and I don't know why it has to be left hand, and it has to be like this, and in a specific pressure, and only I know how to do it, and it's not applicable to anyone else. It's just my key. My friend's key was this very when you have this metal foil with this makes this kind of very sound like a thunder. You make this kind of a little bit metal and you move it very fast, and it makes this specific sound, and he says it's immediately just moving me into that. And especially after the training with Corinne, I just understand that this is like my key. And those keys are overlapping. There are several, and they are changing. They can be changing throughout life. They can be changing. They can be for a long time staying. And it's not only one key, but several ones. So people were, for example, doing this kind of sounds, or someone was really scratching his left ear like this, and this was his key. And it's just very funny at some point, because you really externally behave very strangely, but it's just showing the ability of expression that it's limitless. It's just limitless what you can do, and it's hard to explain why, but it works. So we were just observing that it works. And working with the object was also interesting, just intentionally using the specific auto-induced cognitive trances in order to do specific tasks. So, for example, take the object that you feel bound to and just trance with it. Just perform the same stuff, the same entries, but just remain with the focus to this object. So I was, for example, I chose after a long deliberation the curcuma, piece of curcuma root, and later on I painted it a lot, and it started to be really like important thing to me. After several months later, I just ate it, and after I ate it, it also evoked a lot of different interesting changes in my life. So Corinne was also saying, what we are doing here, please, you have our as this board, as this group, uh, you have our professional scholar advice, and remember, don't do any strange decisions after this session, because it's the life must continue also and should continue in the patterns that were typical for you before that. Just remember that it is having some sort of impact, because you are working on the infrastructure of your life right now intensively. Like every practice has some repercussions. So they just advise and implored not to do strange decisions in life, not to, for example, divorce a spouse or whatever after this, because it's not about that. You just have to also learn how to calm down, how to get out of these states, and how to control it. They gave us a very interesting anecdote. They were practicing with some actors, and there is a resonance about it. I felt this resonance exactly on the second session I mentioned about the wolf. I just noticed that I'm so strong in that I felt around that actually there is a group of people that just follow. They were hesitant in their own cognitive trance, but they followed the authenticity of my howling. And we spoke about it, about this resonance, that one person can inspire others around by trancing. It doesn't have to be very much expressive by sounds. It can be, it's enough if it's just authentic and very powerful, and the level of energy of the particular trances can vary from the vitality of the person, from the charisma, all this kind of stuff. Many other things, nutrition, lack of sleep, too much sleep, all kind of things. And she mentioned that actually they were once training the group of actors, and the actress was appeared to be very powerful, but she just didn't control it. So she got it with this to the stage, and there was a theater of around 200 people audience. And Corinne said that eventually on the stage the lady used this technique of entering to the trance, and she was so powerful, and she couldn't control it, couldn't close it, that actually people from the front row started to behave strangely. And we are talking about people who do not know what is going on. And they started to prophesy. Remember this story from Torah, that people are prophesying out of that camp and they do not know, and there is like general hysteria. People who are not prepared start to be into the state that they do not know what is happening. So Corey said that there was this evacuation of this theater, that they gradually paced down people. They closed, they pacified the trance. They know how to do it, and I also know how to do it. There are specific ways to grounding this energy back and just controlling. But to someone who is not trained, it can be really unprepared. Can be really very much puzzling. That's why she's not propagating openly this loop. It's not something that you can find on internet, and this is a property that is being kept. She's not publicizing it. She's just under specific control measures. She's sharing it, but never sharing it like publicly. It just has consequences, and yeah. I'm really much abbreviating the topic, but how do I wanted to refer to our topic of Serpent here? It's this vitality, connection to the vitality, connection to the anthropologically invariant of possibility of practice, of self-connection to the life element, represented by the serpent. So if the serpent encompasses all bios, it's being the phenomenon of seeing the so-called power animals or all these kind of things that we have in shamanism is just superficial description of what can happen when there is appropriate moment and specific moment and specific need for expression of the specific aspect of life. Serpent encompasses all of it. That's why in the very powerful, triggered mostly by psychedelics, visions, the serpents are appearing, and also they are connected, as we saw in this theory of Narby, Kuczynski, and Rachel Dolmatov. They are appearing as this ultimate power animals, ultimate givers of the knowledge. And how is it also related to our mythos, Jewish mythos? The serpent is described the most arum, the most intelligent, the most potent in the wisdom giving, with the intelligence being all the creations. So ultimately, it encompasses all, but he is the Lord of infrastructure, so to speak. He's below the outside, the topmost creation outside is the man, but descending into the infrastructure of the serpent gives the access to the knowledge of the self-healing, also going to some sort of residue of life, but it has to be done under the specific rules of engagement, so to speak, in order not to fall into the serpent chasm like it happened in the Gan Eden. So this is like the working of this mythos of Gan Eden is the working exactly of the mythos of recurringly going to the trances, recurring going to some sort of prophecies, divinations, but going out of it back is also the goal, to keep the sanity and keep the healing, but not distraction, not being overwhelmed by descending into these realms. Yeah, these are my further expressions. This is in Polish here in the right side is there are very, very, a sense of humor in many aspects here, because it also was when there was a sense of humor, and most of us had a sense of humor, most of us didn't have this kind of whatever seclusion stuff, rather laughable at some point, even intensive, but still laughable at the end. There was those conclusions. So I wrote here under impression of some drawing that howling is actually good for the growth of the horns. And this is the statement that came out of me. And as we remember, horns are also this kind of, shamanic parameter occurring invariantly in many aspects. And on the left side, you can see this is my actually proto-language letter to my father. And there is this dot, and this dot is leading by this marking to the just piece of sweat that fell from my forehead. And I found connection between this and this, and it was like this goodbye letter or any kind of solution with my relationship to my father. Well, with my father, I had a very deep relationship, and I also was the moment when he was passing away. He passed away of cancer, and I was really holding his hand, and yeah, that like close person. You just want to write something, you want to reconnect. But it's about me, about my self-healing, about my reworking of some memories. And yeah, other people were also doing very interesting, very funny stuff, and we also had this interactive trances, and it was actually a beautiful experience in the end. Very humanistic, yeah. Okay, I hope that this has sense to connect it to the topic of Serpent. I hope that you see it. I want to, if I wanted to conclude with what are the topics most important for me, which, of course, the point of our of departure was this book of Rav Gikatilla. But on the other hand, as you can see, it's actually not the true point of departure. It's just I'm using one artifact from my close to me culture, which defines me, the Kabbalistic aspect of Judaism. But actually, I don't know where is the departure point. If it's my own life and in experience of and wishing to know the secret of life, like later on I learned this was Goldberg wish, and now I see this obsession, positive obsession by Yosha Bach. He wants to understand why we're conscious and what is the secret of life. And if this departure point is just because I was born, or is this departure point because I don't I don't accept the fact that people are dying and I have to also eat other beings in order to live. And at some point, I know that I will be eaten also by other beings, my body at least, in order that other live, and reworking of this mythos of protective serpent and attacking serpent. Also, the notion of vision, as Jeremy Narby says, and it's still valid. We still do not know how we actually see normally. I mean, we don't know the process of seeing. We know that the light falls off the retina, and Valerie, you experienced this in a strange way just a couple of weeks ago during the operation, and then it's being interpreted. We know by the third row cortex from the back of our brain, and it's being reinterpreted, but it has nothing to do with the physical world. This we know for sure, and this is a projection. It's just the most common, the most fixed hallucination, I would say, because it's commonly shared by most of us, but everyone sees it a little bit differently. We just focus on those things that are similar. We change the factors and we have another vision. We change the way we breathe, we have another vision. We put the spine differently and we stop moving for 1 hour, we have different vision. We start to dance ecstatically, we have different way of seeing. We take this medicament or this substance, or we change the proportions of the oxygen, we have another way of seeing. So there are so many factors that can be changed, and then the reality that we actually co-create is changing. And this is exactly very important feature of the serpent symbol, that is about seeing, about visionary aspect, about this nichush, nachash lenachesh. And I use the symbolism, the metaphorics from Hebrew lore, from Jewish lore, but it's all the same or very much similar across different cultures. And the notions of ultimate healing, that there is this hope in Jewish lore, there is this hope for Mashiach, that the serpent will not definitely will be conquered or destroyed like this picture shows right now. Is that the head of the serpent will be crushed, but it's nothing about the destruction of the body of the serpent, of the life itself. The head, it means this chaotic life that just want to self-perpetuate without any meaning, without any goal. That therefore you need to stop this movement and put it into the sense, into some sort of order. Therefore you need some higher intelligence or higher agent. And whatever it is, it's in our Hebrew lore, it's Mashiach, and it's hinted at the geometrical connection to the Nachash. And I just still cannot forget that so many symbols of the cult for Hashem, for Yudke Vavke, are related to the serpent. So ultimately, we are speaking about some major reparation, hopefully happening to the life. And yeah, I want to be part of the good, whether with the scholarship, with the research, with just pursuing the exploration of the secrets. So from my side, thank you so much. And if we want, we can share some thoughts right now about it, about this or anything else. By the way, I just maybe before that, I would just say you can view. I really advise you viewing this movie, and if you are interested in that, she is doing from time to time, especially for French-speaking people, she's doing the meetings practices. I would say don't worry, it's really kosher. She is doing it with a very disciplined mind. It has nothing to do with any kind of cult or any kind of murky movement. She wishes that it is being more propagated, and she wishes to apply it for example, people who are suffering, people who are having psychological issues, problems, challenges, and also those who are lethally ill. So she wants to alleviate the pains for the palliative patients, and she you can find a lot of her, a lot of lectures of Corinne online and YouTube. So feel free to explore it. I know her personally, so I just met her then, and I know that she's very, very nice person, and I'm quite just if to share something privately, I'm quite empathic about. Okay, that would be too much far-fetched to say if people are good or bad, but let's say, because it would be saying good for whom? For me, um, I'm just, I just probably in my life I never got wrong when I had the impression if someone is like good in a very inner sense. So Corinne is this person that made an impression of me. Whatever she's doing, whatever life she's living, her ultimate insight infrastructure is just good. And yeah. So if you happen to hear about anything she's organizing or any kind of delegates of her, please don't hesitate, because I find it very, very important. I found it very important, this training, and it contributed to my also understanding of our topic. And the movie is beautiful, actually. And this actress was actually also trained by Corinne team and Corinne herself. So the actress was also performing some things on the stage. So what what do you think about Serpent?
Well, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Largely speaking, I think that the whole development of the sessions, etc. It brings to me the idea of such an the idea of reciprocity, okay, in terms of reciprocity among signs, among facts, and even before we can describe this as through the language that we usually speak, etc., etc. I mean, one of the takeaways I will have from those sessions is the fact that there is a spatial and has to be constructed way to access to the symbols, right? Because we have seen the symbol, but we have seen also experiences that are associated to our will, instinct, or whatever, to connect with the oneness of reality. And I refer myself to my own experiences, what I thought it was a sport practice, but in fact it was not. When I got into this speleology experience across the years, it became something that even not being a believer or not being a religious person as such, I would have the need of understanding what that type of connection was, and at the time I missed the symbols. I acknowledge that, but and obviously as a student of philosophy, I have been used to approach the symbols from an intellectual perspective, cognitive perspective, and I think that a different approach, the other side, the other registers, is very beautiful, really.
Thank you so much. Yeah, there is this application of the methods, how to get to the symbols and how to let the symbols to work on us, and vice versa. This reciprocity. Yeah, this is close to me. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
The
Sorry?
problem remains of how to bring it into our daily existential lives. I used to be in the theater. I was an actress and a dancer for many years. And when I was a psychologist at the Jung Institute, I gave courses in which what we call active imagination, which means expressing everything through drawing, painting, modeling with clay, dancing, body movement. Not all on the same day, but one day after another day after another day. So there were profound experiences, a tremendous mystical, quote unquote, really, but experiences. However, and when I was 10 years old, I was an Aztec, by the way. I became an Aztec when I was 10. I don't remember. I decided that I was one of the sacrifices to Quetzalcoatl at 10 years old. I was just all, and nobody knew my name. I don't remember what I remember what I went through. I don't remember many of the experiences. I don't know why it happened. I was taken over when I was 10 by Quetzalcoatl. And the feathered serpent idea has stayed with me as a combination of spirit and matter, the feathers and the serpent. Anyhow, point is, yes, I can get in there and experience that and help other people to do it. But can I help them lead their daily lives? Yeah, they can get over their headaches, they can get over their traumas, but how to live life forward to the purpose for which we were born. I haven't been able to connect all to myself that way. Only tonight, only this morning, my dreams were filled with how I was mixing the disintegration of my corpse and trying to bring one of my dogs. It wasn't a frightening dream at all, but it was all on the end of life things. How do I do it? Where will it go? My point being, how do we take these wonderful things that we do all share and put them in a category of the here and now to move us forward, not just to experience them, but you know what I mean, to get them. I mean, you're doing it now by giving a course. So you're putting it together by having us focus on it. But then how do I, in most simple things, what was the story about the rabbi taught me how to tie my shoelaces? You know that story.
No.
A Chassid goes to his Rebbe, and he's been chosen to go to this great Rebbe, and he spends 2 weeks there. And when he comes back, the Hasidim say, "And what did he teach you?" And the man said, "He taught me how to tie my shoes."
Which is already a stage, yeah. First thing which comes to my mind is that it's about the restoration of the culture and doing rhythmically things and how to keep it, put it into your daily life by finding appropriate rhythm. And it's about ecology of mind. The term that is, of course, not mine, but it's who said that? I don't remember him. This is a very interesting person. Doesn't matter. It's all about healing on different levels. Starting with stopping self-lie and also starting to be self-observing the own rhythm of the day and night, and not judging about the things that are triggering us towards things that are actually not leading to any kind of healing, but just are compensating some faults, some gray areas in us, and gradually starting from the day, building up the better routine, but again, not pushing way, not entering in some sort of cult, some sort of rigor that will just lead to some maybe discipline for a couple of months or years, but then there will be collapse eventually because it's not the rhythm that is naturally being evolved. And gradually also thinking definitely about the others, about the environment, about how to spread it and not to keep it for yourself, because we are very much connected. The communication is happening all the time, and we want it or not, we are communicating with the BIOS, and the BIOS communicates with us. Many things to be accepted, and in the end, it's to develop the rhythms that rhythmically, recurringly are being filled with the things that are contributing, and you can observe what is contributing and what is not contributing to life, to research, to passion, to good things, by just asking yourself, what is the result of this and that activity? What is the result of this and that relationship? And there is no recipe, just there is no recipe for how to do it, but I think that there are some basic invariants, how to get close to it, to bring it. The first thing that comes to my mind is the cyclicity. The things have to be repeated. Even a simple thing, when people are saying I love you to the other person, some people say it's enough that once in a life I said to someone I love you, well, I said it, so he or she registered, so they remember. Yeah, no, you have to repeat it. It's like with breathing, you also with eating, with any kind of things that are rhythmical. You cannot eat once in a lifetime for good for all your lifespan. You cannot breathe, take a big breath and just have the oxygen for your lifetime. The recurringness and the cyclicity, the cycles are really the best teachers, I think. So the same thing is about that. The important thing.
In the last 10 years, I have worked recruiting professionals for companies.
Mhm.
And I made a small website which I called Talent Breathe. I still do not know why I used the term breathe, but I was inspired through my exercises in breathing and getting into my awareness, etc., etc. And now it's closed. I don't use it anymore because I'm retired, but still inspires me. Breathing, talent breathe. And the definition I made for talent was, talent is everything we do and everything we think of in order to overcome a challenge for which we had not pulled all the resources. So it's a claim that life calls us to build resources that have to add to our heritage, but our heritage is not enough. We have to transform it in some way, in the present, in the future. And if we hope that our culture will solve those questions, it's impossible. We have to go to the symbols. We have to go to what is our heritage and give new meaning to that. If we're not able to give new meaning, it even affects and compromises the professional life. And that's something my clients would understand very well when talking about personal development or professional development, etc. So it has consequences for the daily lives, for our daily lives, if we can orientate that experience as long as we keep it and we continue to develop. I still write notes about talent breed for myself. And
good, but it's very important that it is shareable. You share it right now, and actually I also feel inspired about. By the way, I haven't spoke about this basic pneumology in Judaism. As we know, there are more or less division to the 5 different aspects of so-called soul. So let's use the terminology of Bach, that this is some sort of a software, some sort of environment that is being shown through the agency. So the first one is this nefesh, this vitality, and this is connected to the blood, the transformation of the within blood that can transform the oxygen and energy and the vitalities, the organic matter that is giving the vitality to all the cells across the body. Then we have the ruach, which is referring also to the word revach, the space, and reach, the smell. This is more or less the same root, but revach and ruach, this is called spirit, but it's about pumping of the heart. It's giving the space. It's just moving this blood. The blood would be just stagnating, but the next level of the soul is this movement of the through the body. That is giving exactly. Yeah, by excuse me.
Pumping.
Yeah, pumping, like giving the space. Revach ruach. This is revach in Hebrew. It means space, like space on the keyboard, to give the you have to have a little bit room in order for something to happen. Things cannot be just stuck together. They have to have a little bit emptiness in order to have this, even to rephrasing the statement by Valerie, to overcome the challenge of the distance. In order to reach to another level, you have to overcome the distance that you think that you are not capable of. Well, overcome it by your talent. The next level is neshama, which is from neshima, linshom, which is to breathe. What is actually causing that the function of the ruach of the heart works? Because you are breathing. You are having breath in, breath out, linshom. In Hebrew, linshom, neshima, it means to breathe, and neshama is the breath-related soul. And here, Kabbalistic Jewish lore is meeting exactly yoga, because neshama is also connected to the thinking. It's also responsible for the intelligible aspect of being. Thinking is related to breathing. Anyone who was practicing any kind of breathing techniques knows that controlling the breath and stabilizing it, putting some rigor, changes also the pattern of thinking. And when there are those three stages in the any kind of yoga techniques of breathing in, not breathing with the breath in, and breathing out, the not breathing is exactly the most stable and the most pacifying any kind of flow of thinking. It's just the moment that you are suspended in this between one thought and another, and eventually it's leading to very much possibility to control the flow of the thoughts. Normally, we know that if we close our eyes and we try to be detached from any other triggers, the thoughts will still flow. The brain will produce them. But start controlling breathing, at some point, it will lead to pacifying the thoughts in compulsory way. What is the next level? The next after is Haya and Yechida. They are very not so much touchable and not so much relatable to the processes within the body. Haya is like the living aspect, and Yechida is the unification in one point, and it's usually not placed in the body, but Haya is somewhere here, like the vitality is in the head. And whenever I think about Haya and its position in the head, there's the vitality of the control system. I think about this sculpture we saw in the session about Palus from this Göbekli Tepe from Anatolia, that this serpent on the head, and the Ureus, and any kind of positioning of serpent here. Like, as if they wanted to say something important to us by this symbol. Okay, I want to thank you so much for any sharing, and we are in touch. We are connected by emails, by probably now so next sessions, next ideas, what to do. I hope that Zev and Natalie would like to also to reconnect us. And first of all and foremost, I wanted to thank you, because it's a huge stimulation to me, and without I am already a different person after those sessions. So thank you so much. And again, I encourage you have my email, you have my also WhatsApp, and let's just share and continue sharing, because this is how we make the world better, I think.